Hello, hello, hello. This is Paper Cuts Included coming to you live from the Ninja Turtle sleeping blanket, and that's how I know it's legit. Today we're going to be continuing our look at Frank Miller's Ronin number 5 on our Miller Friday segment. Before we get into that, if this is your first ever Paper Cuts Included video, we are a comic book YouTube channel. It is ran by me and my two co-hosts, and we want to talk about what we love. And what we love is comic books. We talk about comic books, comic book art, art in general, artists, and just all things related to comic books. We look at comic books under a technical aspect. What I mean by that is, yes, I'll talk about the story, but is more a look at us breaking down the book under a technical aspect. Talking about the artist, why the artist did this, what works, what didn't, us as working artists, what would we have done? What are we learning from it? How can we get better as an artist? So stuff like that. I say it is about an 80 to 20 split. 80% of it is me talking about the technical aspect, whereas 20% is me talking about the story. Some books will be higher. I just did a kick-ass video where I mostly talk about the story. So, I think it's a good watch. Um, to prove I'm a working artist, I show off one of the pieces I'm working on right now. I've been rewatching the Mad Max movies, so I am doing a Humongulus from Road Warrior print. I love to do prints. I do printmaking quite a bit, and so hopefully I get this done before summer ends, because I'm notorious for drawing a design and then not cutting into it for months. So hopefully I get this done by the end of June. Knock on wood, I do. Haha, get it? But no, back to, I guess, the programming now that the bills are paid. Um, we are going to be looking at Frank Miller's Ronin Book 5. This is going to be in the segment of Miller Fridays, where every Friday we look at a Frank Miller book. And I decided to start it with one of Miller's Black Sheeps and one of the books that I only read the first issue of and didn't really like in high school. And I have to say that Ronin has grown on me a lot. I like it a lot. It is no Sin City. Nothing can top Sin City, in my opinion, for Miller. But it is great. It is a great story. If you like cyberpunk, you'll like it. If you like samurai books, you'll like it. And it's just a great put together book so far. Hopefully because I'm reading it with you. So hopefully the last issue won't just completely ruin it. But I have a fear it might, as most of these miniseries go. But no, I guess we'll almost get right into it. We'll start it with a is the cover successful segment. We do this with every book we look at. What I mean by that is, when I mean successful, I mean if let's say you or me, or I probably said that a lot more autistic than I should have. But someone's walking to a comic book store for the first ever time. You know, will they buy? Will just by how your book looks, will they pick it up? Will they buy it? Because you got to find a way to sell books, because that's what keeps the lights on. Some new pencils, some new pens, and cheeseburger in your belly. You have to find ways to sell your books, or else you're not going to be making books. That might sound a little capitalist, but hey, it's one of those necessary evils. So we always look at the cover and talk about, is it successful? And I think this one is, but it is one of the weaker ones, I think, in a way. Compared to the others, it is not as dynamic. I'll unfold it to get the full view because it is a wraparound cover. I think it is, going back to its samurai roots in a way. Like, it looks very similar to issue 1, which makes sense because that one and this one have those much more samurai elements, which we'll talk about. So I think it's good. I think people pick it up if they like samurai books. Um, I don't know when Lone Wolf and Cub might have started appearing in comic book stores. I probably bet it's after this, knowing that Miller helped get those books to America. I doubt they were already here when he was doing Ronin. But hey, maybe the Japanese copies were in stores. So if people like samurai books, I think they'd pick it up for this image. Casey in a samurai outfit, a dripping, katana. Like, it does look really good. So I'd give it a 7 out of 10, you know. And my poor copy has quite a bit of water damage in it, which sucks. I didn't realize that until I looked at it today. This is the first time I'm actually looking at my books. I bought these um, on me and my wife, who was a girlfriend at the time's first vacation. We went to a Comic-Con for our spring break. And that was our first ever vacation together. So no, let's break right into it. And right off the bat, like, very, very good coloring from Lynn Varley. Very different coloring too. You know, Ronin has been a lot of earthy tones, like really high greens, bright greens, dull greens. But this page is very hot. It uses a lot of warm tones, and it looks good. It's a nice refresher from the constant uses of dark earth tones. Like, I just love it. I think it works really good. And I'm thinking about curbing this kind of approach to panel work too. Like, this could have just been one solid piece of art, but yet he breaks it up into those panels, and that's something I'm going to remember from the book. And that's something you should always try to do when you're making art, is what can you do that's going to make the audience remember it, because that's what's going to have them go to their friends and be like, oh, you should read this book, it's so cool. And then you'll sell more copies, get your art out there more, make a gajillion dollars, y'all, all that and so on. But no. And the other cool things is just the uses of white ink. I'm sure those are just, dots of just white ink or white out, probably white out, I would guess, just on the page. And it works good. He doesn't do it too much. He shows restraint. Varying sizes, sort of. They're mostly the same size, which is cool. If he really could have just took it to a 9 and did it more so, like Marv in the Rain. You could have Marv in the Rain this, but I don't think that approach would work for Ronin. I think if it was just covered in snow, it wouldn't. So I like how they show that restraint. And I just really like the coloring, the warm tones. Just like I said, is such a nice refresher from the green earth tones we were seeing for the other 4 issues of this book. So think about stuff like that when you're coloring. Is if you're doing, straight that one straight color theory for most of your book, take a break. Maybe do something different for a couple pages. That'll, like, I'm stopping to talk about it. I'm sure other people would too. You know. And I guess a little bit of the story is the Ronin has saved Casey from the mutants. They just had their first little love fest, and she can't not. She wants to hate him, but she can't. And now it's snowing, and she doesn't know how it's snowing because her scientist husband says it could never snow again. And the Ronin's just speaking perfect English now, but a very feudal, like how speech that he would talk in his own time. He's a man out of time, a stranger in a strange land. So he's showing it, talking about what does he say? Many are the hours we must travel, and many are those who will stand in our way. But for now, the fire is warm. Let us sit and rest while we can. That's just pretty cool storytelling, like Frank Miller. I almost said Mark Miller. Frank Miller really could have just had him just talk, suddenly learn all of English, because some stuff will come out eventually about how the Ronin might be actually. So, and Miller could have done that. He could have just dropped the whole you know feudal Japan talk and make him just suddenly have all a mastery of English, but he doesn't, and it does make an interesting story element. I just like it a lot. And just good panel work too. What, 2, 4, 6, 8 panels, but it doesn't really look like a paneled page in a way. Like, I feel like a lot of people won't read it. Same with this page. It just flows good. It's a very intimate scene, them around the fire, and just reads really good. Like, besides issue 3, Ronin's a very fluid book in my opinion. There's some elements in every issue that'll be, usually when we're in the Aquarius Center is when it gets just, oh, this does not flow good. But this is good. If you're trying to find a good way to do dialogue, this is a good one. There is a little bit of talking heads, but I learned Miller just loves to enhance and zoom in on panels, courtesy of Frank Miller, American Genius, which I will do a talk about in a future video, probably tomorrow. Not posted tomorrow, but just film it tomorrow. And just interesting panel work, like I said. Like, we're showing a love making scene, but you know, Miller doesn't like to show, or I guess restrains just profound nudity. Like, Casey is nude for almost all of the last issue, but yet, she's not, jangling her big honkers around or showing, a full on front view, and that's something I respect in Miller. Um, you know, He's not a skeezy pervert. If this was a Richard Corbin, you best believe she's gonna be nude almost all of that issue, flaunting everything. But there's not even a breast shown. I guess maybe right there. But he really could have done that, but yet he doesn't. And it probably doesn't make sense why I'm bringing that up, but I guess it does. Like, it's a romantic way to make a book. This is a very intimate moment between these two characters, and I feel like the lack of nudity does help with that. It's romantic. It's not. We're not looking. You're not gonna show your friend and be like, "Ooh, you want to see the lovemaking scene of the Ronin and Casey?" It's a real steamy, but no, it's very intimate, which I like, and really good metaphor with you know, them at the fire with the Aquarius Center encroaching. Like, they might be having a very intimate moment that, you know, they just. I'm trying to think of words and not sound like a pervert. Very intimate moment, very, they'll remember it for always, but yet not even 100 feet from them, their antagonist is there, and we established later in the book that Virgo never lost them. She always knows where they're at, so even at their most, vulnerable moments, the Aquarius Center's there. And now we cut to it with only, I guess, one building still being visible, while the so each issue we see the Aquarius. This is the Aquarius Center, and each issue it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And something tells me this building is going to be gone by next issue. And it's just like a cancer just growing, or a mold, which I'm curious to see how they would, if they, excuse me, a mold or a cancer. And it's really well done here. Like, these are the color scheme that they use a lot in this book, and like I said, just getting those warm tones was just a very nice break from these green tones, and you can kind of realize that there once you start flipping from them. You know, I forgot about this panel, but it's so good. I love these panels of, so Casey's husband was gonna go try to sabotage Virgo, which is Aquarius. Virgo is the complex, and it's ran by Virgo, a living computer who's ever growing, ever expanding. And the Ronin's antagonist, the demon, has infiltrated it, and it's kind of just wreaking havoc. So Casey finally saw the demon for what he is, and he's gone a little batshit crazy. He's in the psyche ward of the Aquarius Center, and they could have just done him as a skin tone. I just love that green look. Like, I don't know what made Lynn Varley just choose to do this green, like almost a Joker green, but it works. Like, I love it. These are probably my favorite panels in this book, or one of them. I know I probably say that with every video, and then I'll say it 5 more times, but I truly do love it. And that's something to think about when you're making your comics: is how can you think out of the box with your characters? Like, I think the green's going to be a metaphor for the more actually, like, sane he gets, the less green he is. The green shades kind of go away. And maybe I'm just reading too deep into it, but like I said, that's something I'm going to remember, and remember thinking about, and that'd be something I told my friends, my colleagues, my peers about Ronin, and then maybe they'd read Ronin, and it's just an ever-growing cycle. And that's just stuff you want to try to do when you're thinking about doing a book, or doing a book, is what can you do to make people remember? How can you think out of the box? And they do that here with those greens, the purple lips. Like, it's a very interesting color theory and works really well. It just makes it a showstopper page, in my opinion. You know, but no, Casey's husband, I believe his name's Peter. I'm just gonna call him Peter. Is at the is at the therapist office, and so he's talking to the therapist, trying to just see what really happened with them. And we're gonna keep going on. This book is actually pretty good. Issue 3 is probably the worst issue of Ronin. It's not bad. It just, the pacing's really bad, and it hurts it a lot. But in this one, it is really good again. It's like the fourth one. I don't know if they realized they only have 6 issues to work with, so maybe one issue had to suffer. And if issue 3 is the only one that suffers, so be it. But we're getting, so this is the demon. He is a shapeshifter, so he has killed the president of the Aquarius complex and has, shapeshifted. The Aquarius complex was used to be a peaceful only futuristic corporation, but since he's taken control of it, is a military operation, which has these murder droids that they've created since his appearance, which are almost the silhouettes of him in his true form, which I talked about in the last video. I think that's an ingenious idea to make the robots, the silhouettes, and almost look like the demon. I just love that feature. I think it translates really well. It's something I'm gonna remember too. Is, hey, the demons look like the main villain, or not the demons. The robots look like the main villains. It's just a really cool touch, and I'm really glad they did it. And just also his human look I talked about in the last video. He's just looking more and more like a um how should I say, like a Roman emperor, or like I get Caesar vibes from him. Does that mean he's going to end up like Caesar, killed in his human form? Is that going to be possible? I don't know. But even a chalice from a I guess Virgo appendage just out there for him to drink from. He has this royalty look, like, it just works right. I really like that costume design. Where's the Ronin figures? When are we gonna get that? McFarlane, or can we do that? Or just Miller? I would love like like a 5 set of Ronin figures, like the Ronin, Casey, Agag in demon form, or is it Azag? We're just gonna call him the demon in his human form. And I guess I gotta do a 5th figure, a mutant, just a random super mutant. Get an army builder. You know, there's my wishful thinking that we'll ever get Ronin figures. Isn't there a Ronin statue out there that DC did? Who knows? I'm getting off track. But no, just good color theory too. Choosing the cape to be blue. If it was like a earth tone, it wouldn't look nearly as good. I feel like the page would get very congested with an earth tone. You'd kind of lose the demon in the artwork, but it works really good there. You know. Let's see. So, yep, we cut back to Peter's therapy session. Just really good artwork too. Like, that's a really great pose. I'm sure Miller had someone just, maybe Lynn Varley strike that pose real quick, because it looks really good and translates really well too, as just an everyday worker. And it's got some great elements, like the foreshortening of the hand right there. It's just a good pose. And like, that might not sound like a whole lot, but trust me, as an art student, when you have to draw probably thousands upon thousands upon thousands of poses in a figure drawing class, you realize which ones are perhaps staged and which ones aren't. And to me, this is a model right there. That's not a let me sketch something real quick. And just really good coloring. Like, I love how this page are those earthy tones, and then we get cool tones right there, just randomly. Like, that explosion looks really good. Showing the short, kind of like shortings happening with the blues, the violets, just works really well. And and just the way they did that skin tone, it just works. They're two very great pages and work really good with each other. you know like, my complaint with issue 3 is a lot of pages look like this, but just really busy, and with that greens and earth tones, it gets really congested really fast. But these pages work really good, and it's doing those greens to more extremes, darkening them, or just doing less of them, showing blacks, or just browns. Just, it works really well. And then you get to this page, and those blues really help break up the pace in a good way. Not like reading pace, but just break up once you're looking at it, how I am, like, oh, yep, that works really well. They're two just really great art pages. And that's something you should, if you're coloring your own stuff, or if, you're just a colorist, think of stuff like that. How can you just think out of the box? And I think that's what Lynn did right here, is just doing those blues, because he destroys this little piece so Virgo can't listen to him. And so it's like Virgo's not there for once in the book. And I think it works, it being dark now, the blues, instead of the earthy tones, it's cool tones. So just, think of stuff. What can you do as an artist? And I think that's what she was doing there. But no, I didn't notice this in my first read through until it's like fully explained. But I don't really know why it's happening, or I guess we do know why it's happening. This issue is kind of spilling the beans on how is this story kind of happening. Um, so the Ronin doesn't see New York as New York. He sees it as, his feudal Japan, his home. This is what's actually happening. The mutants surrounding New York, all hoveled. We talked about how good the mutants look, and then actually, what he thinks is happening is they're just riding through a countryside with snow, and it can't snow in New York. So what's happening? And I just really love it. It is a great comparison piece, like how these two pages are. It works just really good right there. And just busting Miller's chops, showing how good of an artist he is. Do a landscape scene with buildings, architecture, dozens of figures to go to just a great landscape piece. Period. A horse with a rider. How much more landscape can you get from that? There's a whole the Hudson River School. I guess they didn't do people on horses, but I digress. No, just really good. And this issue really shows how much they're thinking out of the box. Like, this might be one of my favorite. Like, all the issues of Ronin are good to me, except issue 3. That's the ugly stepchild so far. But I couldn't tell you what my favorite one is. When I first read Ronin, it was number 1, but now number 1 is great, and it probably still is my favorite. But the rest have proven, besides 3, that they are very well put together, very thought out books. You know, like, I didn't know it was gonna be cyberpunk when I was doing a reread of it, but I'm so glad I'm doing a reread because I'm falling in love with it. So here we see just the unnamed like bandits that we saw in the very first issue of Ronin, which I'll link all those videos in the description in case you've missed them. They're very good videos. There's probably some of the best videos I've done on the channel, and some of our best received videos too. Besides episode 3, actually, too. Um, that's one of our worst videos received. But let me get back to the book. Just really good artwork, just very interesting compositional work. Having these figures just go off the page, it works there. When I was maybe a freshman in college, I had a professor who would not let you go off the page. That was like his. If you did that, that was like almost an automatic letter grade taken off your project. He hated it when people went off the page. He was like, you need to show everything on it. It doesn't matter what it is. Your audience isn't gonna see it the way you see it. And I don't know if I agree with that. I get why he was doing it. You should be more confident, and um, you know, you need to learn the rules to break the rules. So I get why he was doing it, but it just works really good here. You know, and it's also not having a majority of them off the page. It's only 2 of them, and maybe that was just how they printed it. And, I'm sure the original sketch of it, does have it. I'm sure they're not just all cut off. And just a great 2-page spread. The great you know 3 panels, I guess, almost. Just all the bandits right there just look amazing. Their outfits look amazing. They're amazing. And then you get the dialogue of that straightforward issue 1. Oh, we're come to get the sword. We're going to be rewarded handsomely. And the Ronin, your master will never know you found me. And this is where I was getting confused. I was like, wait, when did he get the sword again? They said it was destroyed in the book. So I was starting to get those, like, something's not right here. And then just really good, almost gesture drawings. Like, Miller does so good at gesture drawings. Or I guess maybe they're not technically gesture drawings, but they're really amazing. Very quick, just, or maybe they weren't quick for him. Maybe he draws them fully and then just, or Lynn inks them and colors them. You know, I would love to see them in like a or an interview of them just doing work together, because I want to learn. I want to learn the Miller way. So comment down below if you know of interviews like that, or if there's like an extra bonus on an animated version of Dark Knight of that. You know. So, but just great, like this. If you really liked issue 1, you're gonna love issue 4. Or is this no? This is 5, isn't it? Yep, issue 5. I can't believe we only have one more book to go of this, and we're just gonna get some great samurai action again. Just when I mean great, I should have said amazing. Like Miller draws a great samurai comic. Just fluid action, fluid movement. If you need help on learning how to do a samurai comic, look here. Great compositional work. Like doing those just negative spaces really works for this book. I think if they were doing the full countryside, these figures would get lost in those color schemes. So I think that's why it is a, fully the negative space. But when they do coloring, it works. Like the Ronin sticks out because he has those more warm earthy tones. Excuse me, my speech is a little not cooperative today. But no, it just really works. Like I said, if you want to read a good samurai book, you're gonna like issue 5 of Ronin. You're gonna love issue 1, and you're gonna like issue 5 because it's great. Seeing all the bandits just jump in, like it just works really well. Choosing to do not doing a negative background for them, but having that really good line work just adds to it. I do think if they didn't have that background, this panel would not work really because it just look. I think that's when cutting them off would be a really big disservice, but because they have that line work, it works for them. Same thing here. Like if it was just I guess it would probably work better with just the blue background in regards to not ruining the panel. Like the line work does, I love the line work. It's better with the line work than without. I guess I should have said, but they needed that line work. They didn't need just negative spaces. Man, I'm talking like water trash tonight. But let's keep going. But no, it just works great. Those line works really add to it. Motion lines. It just works really well. Don't just have your characters, with a negative space like that, because then your audience are they moving? Are they not? What's going on? But with those motion lines, the reasons in the name, it's motion lines. They are in motion. They are fighting. It is a very fluid fight too. We're not having 10 pages of him going ha 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 with his sword. It's one panel here, one panel slash, one panel here, and then half of them are dead. So just really good. And almost as quick as it comes, it's going to be over sooner. Just more great samurai artwork, though. You know, like I said, I am reading this book with you guys. I read the first issue probably junior year of high school, and I only read the first issue because I didn't think I'd like the future part. So reading this again now, I'm like, man, I should have read this when I was a junior. Not only would my art got probably a lot better, but just having it's so good, and I would have loved it back then too. But just great artwork and great color theory. I love that they gave him orange pants because it really does help him stand out against the bandits. That's something you should always think about when you're doing your books. How are you going to make your main character not get lost in a panel? He's your bread and money. Is that how it goes? Bread and honey, however that saying goes. Oh, bread and butter. I can't believe I forgot that. He's your bread and butter. Don't lose him. Your audience needs to always know where the main character is and stuff like this. And I think they really do that really well. Just not having him with those cool tones. He's warm. You know, the color theory is on point in this issue. Lynn Varley's knocking herself out of the park, and Frank's too with this amazing just action work. Like I said, he looks, they're running, he slashes, It's really well done. If this was a Marvel book, this fight would have been the whole issue, which I guess it is in this one. But I think a Marvel book would have 10 pages or 10 panels on each page, and not this beautiful compositional work. The rectangles getting a little bit bigger on each one. Like we talked about, the like crooked gutter work really adds to the feel of this book, as dingy, as dirty. Like I love the gutter work in this book. That's going to be one of the things I remember. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's the like those these black lines that separate the panels. Those that negative space in between, that's the gutters, and it his are crooked. There's varying line weights on them. It it makes it feel like a comic book, like a truly art comic book, and I love that. So, and that's just stuff you can think about doing in your artwork. Is, gutter work, panel work. What can you do to make your book interesting? And now we're getting Casey, who suddenly is a master with the sword, and even she doesn't know why. And that's just cool story elements. Don't have her be the damsel the whole time, which she never is, really. Other than the sewer scene, I guess you could call her the damsel, but she can fight for herself. And Frank's just really good about that artwork, too. Is making his female characters badasses. They're not Princess Peaches. Oh, Mario, come save me! I'm in another castle. They'll kick ass and take some names. Sometimes a lot more than the guys will, you know. And this is where I was because when I was reading this, I was like, why are the bandits back? We're in, you know, futuristic New York. How are there bandits? And seeing the arrow turn into an Aquarius almost arrow, and then his arm explodes, it starts to kind of play out like what's happening. And the illusion's over. We see that they were just fighting those murder bots the whole time, and this was a demonstration that the demon did with his potential buyers. you know a Japanese organization who just marvels at the Ronin. They think it's an android, but they're talking about how this looks just like a guy on TV, a quite famous TV show, you know and I love that switch. It, I don't know why, but that's probably one of my favorite things from the entire series is that segment of fighting in feudal Japan, and then we're doing the switch back to reality. He's been fighting murder bots the entire time, you know, and it it just works. It works really well. I think it's a great twist and just a great compositional work too. A road with rubble. Like this is dystopian New York, so there's rubble on the ground, broken cars, with the Ronin just not even bleeding because you know he absorbed, or maybe the other person just morphed, so he absorbed a body and he got new arms and new legs. So they ain't bloody arms and bloody legs, they're mechanical. What happened to those metal arm things though? That was the one thing in this book I was like, because he had those metal arm plates on his like arms and maybe his legs. What happened to him? Did Frank just stop drawing them? But no, now we cut back to, and it's well done here. And the third issue, we were like there was like four storylines going at once. Here it's, two, or I guess three, but I'll count them as two. We have the outside forces and the Aquarius Center storylines, and it works really well here. And the pacing's just really good. It's not like issue 3 where the pacing's just really bad in my opinion. But no, we're cutting back to Peter and his therapist, and she's trying to tell her what's been going on. Well, he sounds like he's going crazy. And this is where I talk about, like, I feel like the closer, he gets to accepting the truth, the less green he gets. Like here, he's still a little green, but by the end of it, it's full skin tone. And maybe I'm just looking into it really far, but I like to think how that goes. With some really interesting panel work. Like these are probably the most panel counts that Miller's done in this series so far, but yet it reads really well. And it's not talking heads. What I mean by talking heads is, you know, they could have had all her panels look like that, or all his panels look like that, and your audience is going to get bored of that really fast. A good artist like Miller is going to find ways to change the composition, change the perspective, which they do, and that's going to keep the book flowing natural, keep it flowing organically, and that's what you want to do as an artist, is always trying to figure out how to keep your book flowing organically. What's going to keep your readers just invested and not getting bored, or not, because if you have too wordy of a book in a way of talking heads, they're going to put it down and never read it again because they're going to call it a textbook. But yet, I feel like, yes, Ronin, I guess, is a little wordy here, but to me, it flowed good. And I'm sure maybe some other people think that, and some people disagree. What I say here isn't like the word of Solomon. I'm just an amateur comic book artist. I'm not a comic historian or as technically savvy as cartoonist kayfabe or comic tropes. But I'm just a guy who likes talking about comic books. So thanks for watching me. But no, those androids start just torturing him, blowing off all his appendages, and I just love the artwork. Whenever he gets shot, it's those greens. It just works really well when you compare it to the other panels of him not getting shot with Casey and the murder bots. I don't think they're called murder bots, but I just like calling them murder bots. It's cool pages, cool color theory, cool artwork. Having the Ronin just be a lot darker of a shade than Casey. Um, I just like it. I think that's a nice touch, a nice color theory touch, because I'm sure that, or not just sure, he could have easily has been the same shade as her, but I feel like that just differentiates them good in a good honest way, and keeps just separate, because there are two different characters and you don't want them morphing into each other, which could have happened if they were the same shade. Like his chin easily could have looked like a deformed smile on her. Like I could already see the memes if it was a Frank Miller oopsie. But no, we are learning. So during, I guess another thing about the story, Peter is spouting why, yeah, just had a brain fart there. Why is this all happening? How did the Ronin come to be? And so we talked about the Ronin kind of took over the body of a psychic, and why is the psychic's kind of ability suddenly coming up? And so we're gonna get this really cool flashback, I guess, of what's happening, and it's of our, is it a quad amputee or what? I don't want to, offend someone who is that or know someone, but a amputee person who, it's just a head and chest, is getting bullied by this kid just repeatedly, and well, during the memory, as Billy's saying "stop it," the Ronin saying "stop it." So what's gonna happen? Is this flashback gonna turn into anything? Just notice there's a Batman poster right there. That's pretty cool. An interesting color theory too. Like the flashbacks almost have less detail than the present day, and I think that's cool because the flashback isn't going to be perfect memory. It's going to be what I guess you want to remember in ways, and even the color theory looks muted, which I really like. I think that's just a good touch to just separate past from present. And so you can think about doing stuff like that when you're doing a book, is if you're doing a flashback, how can you help the reader realize that it is a flashback without telling them it's a flashback? If you take the words out, take the, like, if they just flip to this random page for the first time, I feel like you're gonna know these are two separate events. And I think the color theory and the less amount of detail, like compared to all the line work on the Ronin to kind of Billy's and the random kids, just smooth face, I just think it works really good there. But no, and here is, I'm sure, I don't know if Frank Miller looked at Akira for this at all, but I swear to God he had to, because that's, Tetsuo blowing up some stuff right there. When he gets mad, he blows shit up. Like he blew up some motorcycles in issue 3, and now we have him blowing up Pastwise the Bully and a robot. And it's just like, did Miller just do that, or did Lynn do that? I'm sure she did the robot, or maybe I don't know. I don't know how much. She's a great colorist, but I wonder if Frank was ever like, no, I'll handle that. And it just works really well. Like you can tell that's just ink, and it's beautiful. Like one of my favorite panels in this book. I'm sure I've said that 5 times now, but when I say that, it means like it's a showstopper panel. Like I could stop and look at it for hours. I guess not hours. I got things to do. I got books to make, prints to print, TV to watch, books to read. But I'm gonna remember it. Be like, oh, did Frank Miller rip off Akira? That's a deep dive I need to do. But no, it works so good. Like when I mean it's just ink, like you can see the brushes, you can see the strokes, him just dropping the ink on the page. And I love seeing that. That's one of my favorite things to see Miller do, is that amazing ink work he can. And it's just a great page. It would be better if there wasn't that, page split from the spine. Like if it was just flat, it would look so beautiful instead of that awkward spine cut. But it is a great 2-page spread, and that's, if you're planning a 2-page spread, look at this. See what you can accomplish. It works amazing with a negative background. Like this book probably has the most negatives in the series. I bet. I'm probably wrong, but that's just what I'm saying. Like I guess the robot doesn't really communicate that he's blown up, but you get that from poor kid, poor Yamagata, if you will, getting his spine blown. And now we get our final thing back to the past with Billy's mom coming back and just calling him a monster. You know, with the Ronin just saying it too. So at that point, I'm like, well, is Billy just the Ronin? Like, cause I guess that's another story thing we didn't talk about is Billy might just be acting out his fantasy, and his fantasy of cutting limbs off because he never had him, just hating the world, and in the first issue we already established he had a crush on Casey, so that could be the reason for why the Ronin's been making out with her for 2 issues at this point. So I'm real curious to see how this series ends with well, what's gonna happen next? Well, a continued I guess no. This is the one where they're talking about Billy using his fantasies. Let's see, where does it actually say it? And these fantasies, where would they come from? Wherever. Fairy tales, TV movies like that. And they might be violent? Could be, especially if he was angry. Angry, he'd be raging. What else? He'd hate everybody. Everybody with all their arms and legs. He'd want to take their arms and legs and you just see him realize, and that's when I realized it too. I was like, oh my god, that's ingenious. He'd want to chop. It's like some sick joke. So this whole story might just certainly be Billy playing out his fantasies, being a strong Ronin with all his appendages, just punishing people. Because the Ronin's been cutting limbs off. Like, I was like, oh my god, yeah, he does. He cuts arms, he cuts legs. A lot of heads. Like we just said, he had a thing for Casey, and he's been making love with Casey. It's and he still has those telekinetic powers that Billy has. So at the beginning, they kind of, make it seem like the Ronin took over Billy, but now I'm wondering if Billy is still there. Like he never left, but he's just pretending. You know what I mean? So I'm very curious to see how the book ends. And just more great dialogue, just great moving the book forward in a non-talking head way. Having her walked away, him crouched, like it just works. It's very fluid. It flows really well. If you have a wordy book, look at look at pages like this. Look at Love and Rockets. Look at Love and Rockets more because that's amazing. This is amazing too, but you're gonna learn more from Love and Rockets. But this is an example of keeping a book going without getting talking heads and without making it stagnant. And here is, I guess, the vice president who, you know, just kind of let. I guess we'll skip it because nothing too much happens there. His time is he's probably not long for this world. I bet he's gonna get killed because he's kind of going against good old demon's wishes. He doesn't know he's a demon, but he's kind of regretting what he's done. He's helped shift the peaceful Aquarius complex into a military might, almost just a military service, and he's just regretting it, which is cool to see some character shift to that. But it is more of just kind of that good fluid dialogue. It is also your cliche, just oh, I wanted war the entire. It's like the villain becoming hero by the end of the story with the oh, I knew I was wrong the whole time. I'm so sorry. But no, now we're already cutting back to the Ronin since he is rebuilding himself after his little Akira blast, and we kind of get it. This is what he sees is the feudal Japan, and it's cool to see it. You know, and he's just going to be chopping down robots with the next really cool moment in the book is wings. They are wings. Agat has sent his dreaded kami, his demon slaves. It's like, is he? Are there about to be some more demons? Well, no. It's what he sees them as demons, but she sees them as the flying death bots, and it works so good. Like I said, I love this. Like, I guess it's not even a twist, or maybe it is a twist, just the mini outcome of it. It works really well here. Even the colors look so well. The Ronin's world being full of color and just color, like the first issue is very colorful, whereas the rest of the book has been these dull earth tones and ways. So I just love that. That concept is he sees the world different than what it is. The all these color theories, the cool tones, the hot tones, the earth tones. Whereas New York is just this, smoggy sky, I can imagine, with all the greens and earth tones. It just works really well there, I think. And so they spray poison gas. Roan doesn't know what poison gas is, so he succumbs to it. Casey runs, I guess, in the subway where a blast already happens. With everyone expecting both of them to be dead, which pretty cool way to because I guess we're not done yet, but almost done. So never mind. I'll save that for a little bit. But yeah, just great artwork. Those negative spaces, utilizing it. Miller does really good with them. If you need help, learn, like, you don't have to do a very technical background. It'll look good if you can master that. Looking at you, Jeff Darrow. Every background has to be this insane piece of art that I know you have the original sketch for on like 20 by 24 paper. But Frank Miller's just good at these blank backgrounds, and it works well. It makes the character stand out. Like, that's a great silhouette right there. You know, and I love having her in those like warm tones with the explosion. It does add that, hey, she's about to get exploded. Spoiler alert: she doesn't. She. I hope she okay. With cutting back to the weapons test, if you will, and we get the first, like, I don't know if I'd call it scared or just puzzled look that maybe even the demons maybe realizing what's going on, because his Japanese maybe potential buyer is talking about how, yeah, this Ronin is like watching my favorite television adventure program, and the demon has just this puzzled blank expression. That's why I say, like, I think he might be realizing that that might not be the Ronin. That might just be a poor little guy. So does that mean I'm not real? Like, I'm very curious to see how they handle that. And this is like the classic Aquarius look that issue 3 had too much of. So I'm glad it's very limited to just kind of the last tenth of the book. You know, and it ends on a stereotypical rave. Perhaps maybe her this Casey's husband calling out for her because he might be getting killed from a mysterious chemical Virgo's about to inject into him, and she's off in the rubble. Really well done here. It worked. I love that page. Like, that's a great page. Just ending it like that. That's your call to adventure. Next issue is your last issue, and what a great way to get to that. Our heroes have been beaten, so they gotta rise to the best. They gotta kill the demon. They have to, something's gonna happen to Virgo. It's getting out of hand, you know. But we have to set that role, and a great way to do that is have your characters, get their asses kicked in the issue right before it. So that's Ronin number 5. What a great book! Like, I'm hoping Ronin ends on a good note. I'm so scared it won't, but book 5 gives me hope. Um, so it's been great. This book is really good about really great color theory. This is probably one of um, Len Varley's greatest color works in this series, in my opinion. That'll probably be a video talk about what her best coloring is, in my opinion, in the Ronin series. Yeah, that has to be a video. I'm glad I said that. I'm gonna have to remember that. But no, it's been a fun read. Miller's been doing some amazing work. Lynn's been doing some amazing coloring, it's just been coming out great. Man, my words are not coming easy tonight. If you've made it to the end of this stumbling whirl blah, if you made it to the end of me stumbling through my words in this video, thank you. That means a lot. It helps us out a lot with the algorithm. Gets these videos out to more and more people, and more people means more and more people get to learn about comic books, which I love to say. Um, if you found something you liked, like, comment, subscribe. That really helps us out too, probably more than a lot of things. Subscribing, commenting, that tricks the algorithm into thinking people like this kind of stuff, which I know you do. That was a joke. My attempt at humor. But no, it's been a fun ride. I can't believe we only have one more issue of Ronin to go. I guess we could do Ronin 2, but I don't know if I want to do that just yet. Um, but no, thank you guys. It's been fun. We're at 37 subscribers right now, which is awesome. We're only 3 away from our summer goal of 40. Once we hit that, we're going to be doing something awesome for it. We're going to be, maybe messing around with live streams. I'm going to be raffling off some artwork. It's going to be a whole cool thing. Coming up, I will be releasing our longest ever video. It's almost an hour and a half, or maybe it is an hour and a half, of me and my co-host slash best friend Dylan, and we review Batman Year One, Issue One, and talk about it. And it's super great. And I have to finish editing it and send it out because it turned out super great, and it's the funnest video I've done yet on this channel. But no, again, I'd like to thank everyone who's watched it. This video, all the videos, if this is your first ever video, thank you. And I guess I'll send you on some marching orders. I'm out of here. Make more.